Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm, and today I am loom knitting a cat, a stuffed cat, and I am using an adjustable sock loom, and I'm using 40 pegs. I have moved it allows me to do, it's an adjustable sock loom that you could do different sizes, so I've moved my thing down to make 40 pegs. I'm also using, in case you're interested, Premier Yarns Sweet Roll 245 yards, 5 ounces, and this is a weight of 4, which is a medium yarn. Variegated sort of grays and white, because I want to do a gray and white cat. So to start with, we're going to do the tail. And I'm using 12 pegs. I'm just using the corner. And I knitted back and forth. Just doing a simple E-wrap. That's all I ever use is the E-wrap. Simple stocking knit is what I learned it as. Stitch. And I knitted for approximately 8 or 9 inches of knitted fabric, which what it turns into is a knitted fabric. And using the 12 pegs, I've done a straight section, and when we get done knitting everything, we'll sew that together and we'll push this in so it's more pointy, and this will be our cat tail. So I have done that, and now I'm going to change over and start doing the cat body. So I'm just going to start wrapping and instead of using 12 pegs, I'm going to go all the way around. Okay, I'm going to come down here to the end where my 12 inch, and I need to make this into one piece of yarn, or one single loop again. So I'm going to hold on to this piece over here real quick. I'm going to hit it and move my loops over on the 12 pegs that we fashioned the tail out of. And then I'm going to keep going around because I have to make a double row here so we can start the body of the cat. A double row, and now I'm ready to go around and finish the body. I'm gonna aim for about 8 inches of knitted fabric, so it's gonna be an 8-inch tube is what we're going to be doing, and I'm not going to obviously make you sit here and watch me knit for 2 hours, which is probably what it's going to take. I'm just going to go around and knit it until I have a measurement of 8 inches, and I'll stop and check and measure it every once in a while. So that's going to be the first row of our cat body, and it's going to have this hanging out, and we're going to go around. I'm going to knit about 8 inches long, an 8-inch long tube. And then we'll be back to look at where we are in the project. Okay, I finished loom knitting the length of cat body that we talked about. And if you notice, here's the tail section. And I used that variegated gray and white. And I actually ended up, after I did a little bit of white, I took the white out for the next segment because I didn't want it, since we're doing a small thing, if I would have had a big like Afghan or something, it would have been an appropriate thing. But it would have ended up all white with just a gray tail, which would have been weird. So I did 2 stripes in there I would cut the yarn and tie a tight knot and then cut the tail and then continue to loom knit, and then when I wanted to change colors I did the same thing again. So let's look at the length of it. So we have the long piece that we did for the tail on the 12 pegs, and you can see how the variegated got sort of light. You can see a little bit of stripes, which is sort of cool because that's how a cat would be. And then we went all the way around on the 40 pegs to do the rest of the body, and ended up being approximately 10 inches long. And when finished, it came off, and it's approximately, let's see, flat measured, it's about 4, so it's about 8 inches in diameter when you stretch it out. So it's 4 inches flat measured. What to do now, we are going to take it off of the loom, and I have my long needle that I like to use. You're also, before we get started, you're also going to need something, cat eye. I picked this like golden yellow, green, gold, yellow, brown, whatever color, black, whatever color eye you want to do. And then either the same color yarn for whiskers, or I chose black. So, and let's see, I'm going to make sure I have a long piece of yarn. Actually, I might use the white for whiskers, so I'll hold on to the white. And you're going to need some fiber fill stuffing. So the first thing we're going to do is just take it off the loom just like you would anything else by slipping the loops off onto the yarn. Don't pull it tight though, just remove it, pull the yarn all the way through, but don't cinch it. So you want to just loose. It's a little cumbersome working with a very long piece of yarn, but in the end it pays off because you don't end up running out of yarn and you don't have to change your yarn. Theoretically, sometimes you still do, but when we sew the top up and everything, we're going to have to form the ears as well. If you want to see what the loom looks like when it's empty, here's the adjustable one. It measures about 9 inches long, 3 inches wide. And I like this adjustable one because it doesn't, some adjustable ones have holes, so you can only stop where the holes is. But this one, where the holes are, but this one you can slide up and down to adjust however you want. So you can make us different sizes. Here, here's the tail, which we will do in a minute. So first of all, let's take care of the ears and the head. So the first thing I'm going to do just going to do sort of a whip stitch across the top so we can close the top. I don't want to cinch it up. I'm going to feed, so I can get to this end here, I'm just going to feed in and out, weave in and out just loosely there on the top loop so I can start here at the end. Okay. Just have a straight top. I'm just going to do a whip stitch over the top. So you have a square top. That's what we want because we're going to make these ears up here. So we want that to be nice and square up there. Alright, so I'm going to get some fiber fill. To loosely push it in the corner. I don't want to pack the corners because I don't want them super stuffed. And you sort of want it like if you were making like a doll's pillow. So you don't want it super round, you just want it sort of a flattish. So we know, sort of look at it, and we're going to do the head will be a certain, sort of get to eyeball it. About 3.5 inches down from the top will be sort of where we're going to do the neck. So put your hand around there and sort of then stuff it a little bit more. Because you want the bottom to have a little bit more stuffing than the top part. Before I stuff the rest of the bottom, I think I'm going to go ahead and make his neck. So about 3.5 inches down. Just get a needle with your same yarn, whatever yarn you used here. And since I can't do a knot, I'm just going to tie it a little bit, like a regular sewing knot, because it will go right through. So I'm just going to tie it on there. Okay, and what I'm going to do, now you don't want to get it confused with the other thing, just sort of going to randomly weave in and out, because I want to tighten this up and make his neck. poke it right through the whole neck. There we go. Wrap it around. Hook it in. Okay, then we have his head. Now I'm just going to tie it off here. Make a couple stitches. That's what I mean by tie it off, sorry. Okay, now we have his head. It's going to let us stuff the lower half a little better there. So on the lower, I'm working towards like an oval. I don't want to do it real round, but starting, or maybe like a teardrop. But the base is definitely going to be wider because. All right, before we sew that close, let's go ahead and make our ears. All right, so we have our yarn coming out of the corner. So I'm just going to poke it down in there, and the idea is the ears are going to be the corners. So I'm sort of going down and finding where my corner is. All right. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, I got up to the top. So at the top I want a little bit of a tighter indentation. I'm just doing stitches through, like a line. I'm like stitching a line from, diagonal line from the top to this lower corner here. Again, go around it, and you're going to make that a little bit tighter so you can sort of have more of an indentation. And you got to be careful because if you pull it up round, it's going to end up round. It's going to look like a panda or a bear ear. So you really want to leave that triangle. Okay, so now how am I going to get back to the top? I'm just going to follow my line of stitches. Make some more stitches. Back to the top. Okay, now since I'm back at the top, I'm just going to do whip stitch again, back over to the other corner, to this other diagonal corner where we're going to do this ear. And what I'm doing to try to get a straight line is I'm sort of back stitching, so I make a stitch and then the next stitch I make it back, so it's sort of like a continuous line of stitches. There's no gaps in between the stitches. Little ears and our top of our head, and we have the bottom and the thing. So now what are we going to do down here? First of all, we want to close the bottom of the cat. So get some yarn again, and remember we can't do like regular stitching, so in order to sew it, I'm going to come up here on the end. I'm going to make a little knot so it holds it, and I'm going to tuck that tail inside from the knot. Alright, and once again I'm just going to sew it close. Just like using a whip stitch over the top. Okay, so now we have our tail piece. It's a very thin thing, so I'm just going to sort of like make a little roll of it. Make it like a tube. So our end of our tail, we are going to attempt to make it more triangular. So we'll get down there and do that. So, okay, so we have light stuffing in the tail. Continue to whip stitch, just like we've been doing on the tops. I'm getting closer to the end of the tail. So I just want to turn the two corners down in. Sort of trying to make a bit of a triangular appearance. From the string will be on the inside of the tail. Alright, so now we have his little tail, and it looks pretty seamless. It looks like it was all like, you know, one tube, so that's what we were aiming for. So now he needs a face. So first of all, I'm just going to squish him down a little bit. Now, if you don't want to do eyes, you could glue on, if you're just doing it for decoration or giving it to an older child where there's no risk of choking hazard. If you're doing it for an older child or an adult or a decoration, you can buy shank button eyes, or you can buy glue-on googly eyes. But I'm just going to do some embroidery here, and I'm just going to make two ovals. Tie on a little knot because I'm going to come up behind the, it's going to be hidden because I'm going to come up behind the eye stitches here. So I'm going to go aim for the middle, and I'm going to come up under the yellow that I already did. I'm just going to take something and poke that in there, and then disperse the yellow back there. And we're going to do a stitch right over the top of it. It almost gives it like a padding here. Nose, you could use pink yarn and you could do a triangle, or you could just, what I'm going to do is cut a piece of pink felt. For the mouth, I'm going to use the same gray that I've been using. Yeah, I'm going to start under the nose. It's up inside, and that's just what I'm going for right there. You want my gray and white cat, he has mostly white whiskers. I think he has one gray whisker, but most of his are white. Some whiskers are going to be good. And how I'm going to do the whiskers? Start out with them longer because you're going to cut them to fit. I'm just going to do a knot there. I'm going to do them long, and then we'll cut them. I'm just going to do 4 on each side, so I'm just going to do 2. Okay, I'm not going to cut them until I get both sides done because I want to make sure I get them all even. So again, do another knot. And I think 4 on each side will be good. You don't want to do too many and overpower it. And if you don't like the look of it, you can always take them off. Okay, now I've got these long whiskers here. So I want to pull them all together and cut them where I think it looks like about right there. Just a little cat. And like I said, if you don't like whiskers, if you can make the whiskers black or a different color, well, hello. When my cat approves, he's come up to see the other cat. He heard I was making a cat. So now he wants to see the cat. Don't like the cat? I'm sorry. Alright, time for you to go down. Go on. Well, here's the back of them. Here's the front of them. things out. He's like, what's happening? You're making a cat. What are you making a cat? Like I'm Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein making a cat. Oh, he's decided to join us. He's just playing himself right there. So this has been Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm with our little folk art loom knitted cat. And I hope you had fun. I really loved the tail. How it came out looking like. So when you're picking out your yarn, think about